It became the genesis of the power struggle between both men that continued up to the second post-independence election in 1967. By this time, Sir Herbert had succeeded Sir Milton as Prime Minister upon his death in 1964, and the rivalry was intense. Siaka Stevens and the APC won the 1967 elections by a narrow margin. Most evident in the results of the election was the sharp divide of ethnic proportions in the country. The SLPP was mostly supported by what was referred to as the Mendy-Shabro-Fuller axis, while the APC had support from the Temini Creole, Limba, Susu, Loko, and Madingo camp axis. The Governor General, H. Lightfoot Boston, seeing this as a dangerous ethnic divide, seeing that this dangerous ethnic divide could do harm to the country, proposed that the APC and SLPP form a coalition government. As was expected, Siaka Stevens rejected the proposal, seeing it as a political suicide. Sir Albert, on the other hand, was not willing to work under Siaka Stevens as Prime Minister. The Governor General had no recourse but to swear in Siaka Stevens as Prime Minister. Then came the unfortunate series of coup and counter-coups. 4 hours after the swearing in of Siaka Stevens, the first military coup on Sierra Leone took place. It was led by Brigadier David Lansana, who put both Siaka Stevens and the Governor General under house arrest. David Lansana himself was overthrown 2 days later by a group of senior army officers who called themselves National Reformation Council, NRC, led by Brigadier Andrew Jackson Smith. In April 1968, the NRC was in turn overthrown by a third group of senior army officers who called themselves the Anti-Corruption Revolutionary Movement, ACRM, led by Brigadier General John Bangura. The ACRM restored the Constitution and reinstated Siaka Stevens as Prime Minister. Siaka Stevens assumed power with a great deal of promise and ambition. He had campaigned on a platform of socialist principles. Much trust was placed in him as he championed multi-party politics. However, when he became Prime Minister, he abandoned his pre-election promises and instituted authoritarian form of governance. He threatened the SLPP with violence and intimidation. Many senior military officers were disappointed by the turn of events, but could do nothing. Brigadier John Bangura, who had reinstated him as Prime Minister, had become popular and widely respected with a devoted following in the army. Siaka Stevens saw him as a potential threat to his new agenda. Was that true? In January 1970, Brigadier John Bangura was arrested, convicted of conspiracy and plotting to commit a coup. He was executed. 1 year later, in March 1971, a group of senior military leaders attempted another successful coup. The coup leaders and several senior government officials were convicted and executed. On April 19, 1971, Parliament declared Sierra Leone a republic and installed Siaka Stevens as the first executive president. An alleged plot to overthrow him in 1974 failed. The leaders were executed. Again, on July 19, 1975, 14 senior army and government officials, including Brigadier David Lansana, were executed after conviction for an alleged coup attempt. Then, in November 1985, after 18 years in power as Prime Minister and President, Siaka Stevens retired and chose Major General Joseph Saidu Momo as successor. Given the environment that would be created by the development of the Siaka Stevens Presidential Center, Sierra Leone will be better off if answers to some of the questions raised by this set of events were unraveled. Here are a few sampling of the questions that require examination that could be potentially unraveled, from his career. And if you agree, say it is worthy of study. Study mean at the proposed presidential center. The question number one that should be raised: what if Brigadier Lansana had not orchestrated that initial coup in 1967? Would the state of Sierra Leone have been different today? If you agree, say it is worthy of study. It is worthy of study. What if Sir Albert Magai had quietly accepted his role as the opposition leader? Would the state of Sierra Leone have been different today? This is an answer of study. Why were so many attempts at overthrowing Siaka Stevens? Where were there so many attempts at overthrowing Siaka Stevens when he was president? Were some of the convictions rightly or wrongly justified? It is worthy of study. What if President Stevens had still been in power instead of President Momo? Would Captain Valentine Strasser and his group been able to overthrow the government? This is worthy of study. What were the forces that led Siaka Stevens to take the actions that he took when he was president, or make the pronouncements that he made? It is worthy of study, simply because history has a way of treating presidents kindly once we understood the real details and the circumstances surrounding the events and actions that they took. And this is one thing that we hope that the opportunities created by the Presidential Center would unravel. In conclusion, I see the Siaka Stevens Presidential Center as a beacon of hope for Sierra Leone. It has the potential to be the game changer in our national life. It will help Sierra Leoneans to learn more, not only about a president who had so much impact on their lives, but more about ourselves. The development of the center is not going to be without its challenges and controversies. Challenges of structuring its programs and challenges of fundraising. The project is now not Dina's project alone, but it is a Sierra Leonean project. A word of caution, however: the project calls for an exercise in patience. The Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, for example, did not materialize until 10 years after it was conceived in 1988. For the success of this initiative, all Sierra Leoneans have to be involved, as it has been said before. Presidential libraries are amazing institutions, both physically and structurally. I saw a sketch of the proposed presidential library on the web. It will be a very magnificent edifice that promises to be a tourist attraction